Hi, this is video blog episode 10 for people who are newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I'm Ginger Vieira of livinginprogress.com, and I've lived with type 1 diabetes for about 12 years. I could easily spend the next 5 years telling you about all the ins and outs of living with diabetes and how it impacts you at school, at work, in your marriage, with your friends. What I want to do today, though, is just talk to you about 3 things that I believe are really important to keep with you from here on out. I know that feeling when you are just diagnosed. You start thinking in your head of all the things that you probably can't do anymore, or probably can't have, or probably can't become. And the truth is that almost everything is still totally possible. Now, yes, there are several career paths which diabetics are prohibited from going down. You're not allowed to drive a 18-wheel truck. You're not allowed to drive a commercial jet. And I'm not quite sure on all the strict rules for joining the military, but it definitely will be more challenging as a diabetic. Meanwhile, I know a little girl who is a very, very successful gymnast with type 1 diabetes. I know several people with type 1 diabetes who run marathons and win marathons. I know a tennis pro who lives with diabetes and teaches tennis all day long to children and adults, and life is good. That Gary Hall Jr., when he was first diagnosed in the middle of his swimming career, several doctors actually said to him, "You will never swim again. You will never compete in swimming again." And one physician fortunately said, "Yeah, you can still compete. You just need to learn your way around this disease." And that's the secret, is taking the time and investing the time to educating yourself. As much as your physicians can help you, you are still the number one person who is going to learn how to take care of this disease and fit it into your life. When I was first interested in powerlifting, a doctor literally rolled his eyes at me. And fortunately, I paid very little attention to him, and I continued to pursue powerlifting anyways, and went on to set several records, and I love it. It changed my life in general because I didn't let diabetes stop me. The second thing I want to tell you is that you do not have to do this perfectly. For the first few months after your diagnosis, your blood sugars will probably be pretty stable without a whole lot of effort, because you'll still be in that honeymoon phase where your pancreas is still producing a little bit of insulin. When that phase ends, you're going to start to see more fluctuations in your blood sugar. And that first really high reading that you see can be pretty startling. And instantly, the common feeling is to feel like you've totally failed, you've done something really wrong, and like, oh my gosh, what do I do from here? But it's okay. Fluctuations happen a lot. And what you can do to make them happen less often is to continue fine-tuning your diabetes management, understanding how different types of exercise, different types of stress, different foods, how they impact your blood sugar. Throughout your entire life, your insulin needs are going to change. Every time you gain or lose weight, every time you become active or less active, through different growth spurts for people who are teenagers, for women going through menopause. All those things impact your insulin needs. So be prepared to see numbers that are out of whack. Understand that it happens to everyone, and then understand that you can do something about it. It doesn't have to be the norm for you. It takes a lot of work. It definitely involves an investment of your time and energy, but it's an investment that I consider to be extremely worth it. And by stepping back and not blaming yourself for those fluctuations, but instead saying, okay, I saw this happened, and it happened again yesterday, and it happened again last week. Try to figure out what it is and take control of it. Take responsibility for it. The amount of time and energy that you give into your diabetes management the easier living with this disease will be. The third thing that I want to tell you about living with diabetes is that no matter what age you are or what point in your life you're in, diabetes has this tremendously impressive way of messing with our relationship with food. And it's not surprising because right from day one, it's explained to you that this food and this food and this food and this food you shouldn't eat anymore. No ice cream, no pizza, no candy, no chips. And the truth is that doing that, creating those off-limits foods, is really going to hurt your diabetes in the long run. Just because you're diabetic doesn't mean you automatically stop craving sweets. It doesn't mean that you no longer have a sweet tooth. Life would be simpler if that was the case, but that's not realistic. Even the best doctors in the world still crave sugar, even though they know that it's not necessarily good for them. So when it comes to living with diabetes and ensuring that your relationship with food doesn't get tied and twisted in the emotions of diabetes, I think it's really important to make sure that no food is off limits. Even if you're the parent of a child with diabetes, they're still allowed to go to birthday parties and eat cake and ice cream and go trick-or-treating. But what you're teaching them, or what you're teaching yourself, is how to do so in moderation, because diabetic or not, nobody needs a ton of sweets and junk food, but also to take responsibility for the fact that you're eating a lot of candy by counting the carbohydrates and taking insulin for it accordingly. I mean, it sounds so simple, and it is kind of simple in that if you want to eat a lot of ice cream, measure the ice cream, count the carbohydrates, use your insulin to carbohydrate ratio, and take the right amount of insulin so that you can enjoy something like ice cream and not have your blood sugar go sky high an hour later. I think there is no such thing as food that's off limits. There's food that I choose not to eat, or I choose to not eat it very often because of the way it impacts my body. But I'm allowed to eat whatever I want. From there, I get to pick. I take responsibility for the food I put in my mouth. And when I want candy, I'm going to eat candy, but I'm going to take insulin with it too. So another really important part of living well with diabetes is to get an oversized Goldendoodle, take him for really long walks in the morning, and scratch his belly whenever he needs you to. Thanks for watching. Bye.